So here I have a couple of cups that I've sort of pre-mixed some color in. I also have some wood panels. So these are cut from basically a friend of mine for the show that I have been installing this week. A friend of mine is a woodworker, and she works as an exhibit designer at the Children's Museum. And she built a bookshelf she built a bookshelf inspired by one of my paintings. And which I just finished painting it last night. I'll try to walk you over there and show you my painting on this bookshelf a little bit later on. But these are actually cutouts from the holes in the bookshelf. And it's not really a bookshelf, it's more of like this sculptural creature, and we're putting like a sound piece in it. But I'm going to show you a couple of things on these. So your surface of canvas, it's going to be, so a lot of the time it's going to have this sort of texture, this sort of rough texture. I'm not sure how well you can see it, that sometimes shows up in your paint application. So so this section here, I've coated it. I've actually done a photo transfer on this section, which is something that I'll show you all how to do later on in the semester. But basically it's a gel transfer. So this is like a slick area of like 5 or 6 layers of gloss medium, which I then go back into and paint on top of. So you can absolutely just coat your canvas in a few layers of gel or gloss medium. Maybe you want to get like the cheap stuff so you can really lay it on thick and not worry too much about how precious it is. But I also really recommend sort of like giving your canvas a quick sand or a panel. So like this panel, it's pretty rough looking, you can see. And I gessoed it. I also have put like a bit of a color here. Sanding it, probably a terrible sound to hear through the computer. But quickly giving it a sand with like a pretty fine grit sandpaper is going to help you achieve a really beautiful surface that's not going to sort of take away from your overall effect in your painting. I'm also going to show you just sort of like on raw wood. Yeah, so I would sand, ideally if you're making your own panel, so I sanded this beforehand, and then I would gesso it and then sand after as well. For canvas, if you're buying a canvas from the store, what I like to do is put an extra layer of gesso on it after I buy it, and then give it a sand with a really fine grit sandpaper. You can also just sand in between each layer. So maybe you want to get your canvas, sand it right away, do a layer of gesso, and then sand it again. And that's a way of getting a really, really slick, beautiful surface. But that's also, not at all something you have to do. Just something that if you're looking to sort of enhance what's happening in your painting, and enhance how that surface relates to your content and your painting process, it can be really exciting. So I have a couple of colors here. This color I just mixed in some like phthalo blue, phthalo green, some white, and some pink, or some red. And so right now it's like it's a little bit too watery. So I'm gonna add some of my pouring medium right into this stuff. And another thing you can do is you can absolutely, like let's say you don't have pouring medium, or you don't want to use a lot of your gloss medium, you can absolutely just make a pour with water and paint, and then seal it afterwards. So then seal it with matte medium or gloss medium. But I want to mix this stuff up pretty well. But that pouring medium, it's kind of like I probably have about 30% pouring medium. Let's see, math is hard. Like 40% water, and then the rest is paint. So for the most part, this is liquid. This isn't paint, but I've tinted it enough. Also, the pouring medium is going to help enhance sort of like how much pigment is staying in your paint. And so then you can really just go for it and pour it right on. I really like then going through with other colors and adding sort of like I don't know, you can like make like eyeballs or something this way. You can also, if you have like some water, so I have like a spray, this is like a spray bottle, and it'll allow it to disperse in a different way. If you don't have a spray bottle, you can also just um, take some water, like a cup of water, and paint it over your canvas first, and then pour on top of that. Um, you can also, put multiple layers of pour right next to one another. So this one I'm going to try just on the raw wood. A lot of the time it'll pour like right over the edge. But then I also wanted to talk to you about fluid acrylics. So this is Golden's Fluid Acrylic Green Gold. It's like one of my very favorite colors. But one thing that's really nice about fluid acrylics is, especially when you're doing sort of like more aqueous painting, you can really sort of like drop it directly into your work, and it should sort of like disperse in different ways. It's also really easy to sort of mix in with your paint in different ways. You can then sort of like move things around and see how that will dry. So if I were to sort of pour a bunch of water on this, it would have a much different effect than if I was to sort of just use my my pouring medium and my paint. Does that make sense? So this can be a really fun way to sort of like sort of prepare your canvas before you begin your painting, if you would like. And it's just a fun experimental way to work with paint. You can get really thick with a pour. You can also do really thin pours. So this one will end up being relatively thin. And it's just a fun experiment. So I recommend just trying it out. And if you put too much, it can like create this beautiful, exciting, almost like sculptural layer of paint that you're painting on top of. So just something to think about.